The forest smelled like rain and wild flowers. Lily Brennan crouched behind a fallen tree, watching the biggest animal she had ever seen. The creature sat in a clearing, its ears taller than her whole body. Sharp claws dug into the soft ground as it chewed on purple grass that grew near the stream. Everyone in New Haven called them dire hares. Her mom said they were dangerous. David Ross, the security chief, told all the kids to run if they ever saw one. But Lily had been watching this one for 3 days now, and it had never tried to hurt her. The creature's fur was dark brown with silver patches along its back. When it turned its head, Lily could see eyes that looked almost smart. Not like a dumb animal at all, more like it was thinking about things. She pulled a handful of berries from her pocket, the blue ones that grew near the research station. Slowly, very slowly, she stood up and stepped into the clearing. The dire hare's head snapped toward her. Its ears went flat against its massive skull, muscles bunched under its fur. Lily froze, suddenly remembering what David had said about their bite force. Strong enough to crack metal, he claimed. "It's okay," she whispered. "I brought you something." She held out her hand, berries sitting in her small palm. The creature stared at her, its nose twitched. Then, moving carefully, it took 2 hops forward. Each movement shook the ground under Lily's feet. She wanted to run, but forced herself to stay still. The dire hare lowered its enormous head. Its breath felt warm on her hand. A tongue the size of her arm carefully licked the berries from her palm. The creature made a soft, rumbling sound, almost like a purr. Lily giggled. "You like them." The dire hare sat back on its haunches. It was at least 3 meters tall, maybe more, but it wasn't attacking. It was just looking at her with those intelligent eyes. "I'm going to call you Thumper," Lily said. "Is that okay?" The creature's ear twitched. Back at the settlement, her mother was probably looking for her by now. Dr. Rebecca Brennan spent most days studying the local plants, trying to figure out which ones humans could eat safely. Lily was supposed to stay close, but the forest was so much more interesting than the boring research station. She reached out slowly and touched Thumper's fur. It felt rough and thick, like it could stop anything from hurting the skin underneath. The dire hare didn't. "Move away." It let her tiny hand rest against its massive shoulder. "I have to go home," Lily said, "but I'll come back tomorrow, I promise." She turned and ran through the trees, following the path back to New Haven. Behind her, Thumper watched until she disappeared from sight. The next 3 weeks became a pattern. Every day, while her mother worked on plant samples, Lily would sneak away to the clearing. Every day, Thumper would be waiting. She brought berries and vegetables from the colony gardens. The dire hare would eat them carefully, never once trying to hurt her. Sometimes she would talk to Thumper about her day, about how she missed Earth, even though she barely remembered it, about how the other kids in the colony were older and didn't want to play with her, about how her dad had died during the journey here and her mom was always sad now. Thumper would listen, those intelligent eyes focused on her face. Sometimes the creature would make soft sounds like it was trying to answer. One afternoon, David Ross was giving a safety lecture to the colonists. Lily sat in the back, half listening. "The dire hares are apex predators," David said, his voice serious. "We've documented them taking down creatures twice their size. Their claws can shred through our strongest materials. If you see one, don't run. Back away slowly and alert security immediately." Lily bit her lip to keep from smiling. Thumper wasn't like that, not with her anyway. "How intelligent are they?" someone asked. David shrugged. "Smart enough to hunt in packs sometimes, smart enough to avoid our sensors when they want to, but they're still animals, dangerous animals." After the lecture, Lily's mother found her outside the community hall. Rebecca looked tired, like she always did lately. "Ready to head home, sweetie?" her mother asked. "Mom, do you think animals can be friends with people?" Rebecca smiled a little. "Sure, honey, we had dogs and cats on Earth. Lots of people had animal friends." "What about big animals, really big ones?" Her mother's smile faded. "Lily, you haven't been going near the dire hares, have you?" "No," Lily said quickly. It wasn't really a lie. She wasn't going near dire hares, plural, just one. Good, promise me you'll stay close to the settlement. This world is beautiful, but it's dangerous too. I promise, Mom. That night Lily lay in her bed thinking about Thumper. The creature was dangerous to everyone else, but not to her. She wondered why. Maybe Thumper was lonely too. Maybe the dire hare understood what it felt like to be different. 3 days later, everything changed. Lily woke up to sirens blaring through the settlement. She ran to her window and saw lights in the sky, ships descending through the clouds. They were bigger than the transport that brought the colonists here, and they moved wrong. Aggressive. Her mother burst into the room. Lily, get dressed quickly. We need to get to the research station. What's happening? Rebecca's face was pale. Raiders, David thinks they're slavers. Within minutes, all the children in New Haven were huddled in the research station's basement. Lily counted 12 kids, including herself. The adults were upstairs, arguing about what to do. Through the floor, she could hear David's voice. We have hunting rifles and 1 plasma torch. They have military-grade weapons. We can't fight them. So what do we do? That was Mr. Peterson, who ran the water treatment plant. Just let them take whatever they want. We negotiate, we stall. We've already sent a distress signal. Maybe help will come. Above them, something heavy landed on the roof. Then more impacts, footsteps. The children pressed closer together. A girl named Amy started crying. Lily held her hand tight. Strange voices echoed through the building. Not human voices. The aliens spoke in harsh, clicking sounds, then heavy boots on the stairs. The basement door exploded inward. Commander Vask studied the settlement through his scanner. Small, primitive, perfect. The Krell Syndicate specialized in easy targets. Frontier colonies with minimal defenses, isolated from major trade routes. New Haven checked every box. 62 humans, limited technology, no military presence. The planet itself was listed as unexplored in galactic databases. Simple extraction, Vask told his squad leaders. Prioritize the young ones, they adapt better to servitude. His second-in-command, a scarred Krell named Torx, gestured at the scanner readings. The adults might resist. Vask's mandibles clicked in amusement. Humans, they're barely out of their industrial age, weak, slow, no natural weapons. If they resist, eliminate them. 3 landing craft touched down around the settlement. Krell warriors poured out, weapons ready. The aliens stood 2.5 meters tall, covered in thick chitin armor that could deflect most primitive projectiles. Their 4 arms each carried different weapons. David Ross met them at the settlement entrance, hands raised. We're a peaceful colony. We have nothing of value. Vask approached, towering over the human. You have something we need, laborers. The young ones will bring good prices on the outer markets. You can't just take our children. David's voice shook, but he stood his ground. I am, Vask nodded to his warriors. Search every building, bring all juveniles to the ships. The Krell moved through New Haven like a plague. They smashed doors, overturned furniture, dragged terrified colonists into the streets. David and 5 other men tried to fight back with hunting rifles, but the weapons barely scratched Krell armor. Torx backhanded David across the compound. The security chief hit the ground hard, blood running from his nose. Primitives, Torx growled. Know your place. Rebecca Brennan watched from the research station window as the Krell systematically searched every building. They were moving in a pattern, closing in on their position. She looked at the 12 children hiding in the basement. We need another way out, she whispered to Mr. Peterson. There is no other way. The ventilation shafts are too small for most of the kids. Then we have to hide them better. But it was already too late. Heavy footsteps echoed above them. The building shook as Krell warriors forced their way inside. Rebecca heard furniture being thrown, equipment being destroyed. They were searching methodically, professionally. In the basement, Lily held Amy's hand tighter. The younger girl had stopped crying and now just trembled in silence. All the children had gone quiet. listening to the destruction above. A Krell voice barked something in their language, then another answered. They had found the basement entrance. The door lasted about 5 seconds. Krell's strength turned it into splinters. 3 warriors descended the stairs, scanners sweeping the darkness. 12 juveniles, one of them announced in broken human language. Perfect condition. Commander will be pleased. Rebecca threw herself in front of the children. Please, they're just kids. Take anything else, take me, but leave them alone. The lead Krell warrior studied her with cold, insected eyes. You are worthless. They are valuable. Move. When Rebecca didn't budge, the warrior struck her with the butt of his weapon. She crumpled to the floor. Mom, Lily screamed and tried to run to her mother, but a Krell hand clamped around her arm. The alien lifted her off the ground with ease. Lily kicked and screamed, but she might as well have been fighting a statue. The Krell's armor didn't even register her tiny fists. This one has spirit, the warrior chuckled. We'll need breaking. He carried Lily up the stairs. The other children followed, surrounded by Krell warriors. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. In different circumstances, it would have been beautiful. Vask inspected the captured children with satisfaction. Excellent work. Load them on ship 2. We launch in 10 minutes. David Ross, bleeding and battered, stumbled toward them. You can't do this. Help will come. Earth will respond. Earth is weeks away, Vask said. By then, these juveniles will be processed and sold. Your species is weak. You spread to the stars without weapons, without strength. You make excellent servants but terrible warriors. The Krell warrior holding Lily started toward the landing craft. She struggled in his grip, tears running down her face. Let me go, Mom, somebody help. Other colonists tried to intervene, but more Krell warriors pushed them back. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Several humans were already injured from trying to fight. Lily's captor reached the landing craft ramp. Inside, she could see cages. Metal bars designed to hold human-sized prisoners. The other children were being locked inside, their faces pale with fear. No, Lily screamed louder than she had ever screamed in her life. Thumper, help me, please. The Krell warrior carrying her paused. What is Thumper? Then the ground shook. At first, Vask thought it was one of the landing craft having engine trouble, but the shaking got stronger, rhythmic, like massive footsteps approaching at high speed. His scanner started beeping wildly. Something large was moving toward the settlement from the forest. Something very large. Commander, Torque said, his voice uncertain. The scanner shows a life form, Class 5 predator incoming fast. Just local wildlife, Vask said. Kill it if it gets close. The tree line exploded. Thumper burst into the settlement at full speed. The dire hair had covered 2 kilometers in less than 3 minutes, drawn by Lily's scream. Every instinct the creature possessed was focused on one thing. The child was in danger. The Krell warriors at the perimeter saw a huge animal charging toward them. They raised their weapons and fired. Energy bolts hit Thumper's thick hide, burning fur and skin. The dire hair didn't even slow down. 3 meters tall at the shoulder, muscles like coiled steel, claws that had evolved to dig through rock, jaws that could crush bone with ease. Thumper hit the first group of Krell warriors like a natural disaster. The aliens scattered, suddenly not so confident. Their weapons hurt the creature, but not enough, not nearly enough. Vask watched in disbelief as his trained warriors fell back before a simple animal. It's just one beast, kill it. But Thumper wasn't fighting like a simple animal. The dire hair moved with purpose, intelligence. It used the settlement buildings for cover. It targeted weapons first, crushing energy rifles in its massive jaws. It moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. And it was heading straight for Lily. The Krell warrior holding her backed toward the landing craft, suddenly realizing he was holding bait. Thumper's eyes locked onto him with frightening focus. Drop the juvenile, the warrior's companion suggested. Let the beast have it. But before he could decide, Thumper covered the last 50 meters in 3 bounds. The dire hare's roar shook the air itself. The Krell warrior never had a chance to drop Lily. Thumper's claws caught him across the chest, shearing through chitin armor like it was paper. The alien went down hard, his grip on Lily releasing as he fell. She hit the ground and rolled. Before she could even process what was happening, Thumper was standing over her. The massive dire hare positioned itself between Lily and every Krell warrior in sight. Its ears were flat against its skull. Blood dripped from its claws. The creature's sides heaved with each breath, but its stance was solid. "Protective." "Thumper," Lily whispered, her voice shaking. The dire hare didn't look down at her. Its eyes tracked every Krell movement, calculating threats with frightening intelligence. Vask stared at the creature. His scanner had been wrong. This wasn't just a Class 5 predator. The way it moved, the way it fought, the way it deliberately placed itself between the human juvenile and his warriors. This was something else entirely. "Spread out," he ordered. His squad, surrounded, concentrated fire on my mark. 10 Krell warriors formed a loose circle around Thumper and Lily. Energy rifles charged with a distinctive whine. The dire hare's head swiveled, tracking each weapon. Its muscles bunched, preparing for movement. "Fire!" Energy bolts converged on Thumper from all directions. The creature moved the instant before they fired. It grabbed Lily in its mouth, gentle despite the massive jaws, and leaped backward. The bolts hit empty ground where they had been standing a second before. Thumper landed near the research station, set Lily down behind a storage container, and then launched itself at the nearest group of warriors. The Krell scattered, but the dire hare was already among them. It moved like liquid death, claws and teeth finding gaps in armor with surgical precision. "It's adapting to our tactics," Torx shouted, firing wildly. "How is it adapting?" Because Thumper wasn't a simple animal. The dire hare had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. It had learned to hunt in packs, coordinate attacks, use terrain to its advantage. Its brain might be different from a human's, but it was just as capable of problem-solving. And right now, the problem was a group of aliens threatening its friend. Vask watched 3 more of his warriors fall. The beast was targeting their weapons first, their legs second. Disarm, disable, move on. Military tactics from a creature that shouldn't even understand what military meant. "Fall back to the ships," he ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment." But Thumper seemed to understand the retreat for what it was. A regrouping. A chance to bring more weapons to bear. The dire hare couldn't allow that. It charged the nearest landing craft, building speed with each bound. Krell warriors fired frantically, scoring hits along the creature's flanks and shoulders. Burns marked Thumper's fur, and blood streaked its sides, but the dire hare kept coming. The landing craft's pilot tried to close the ramp. Too slow. Thumper hit the ship's landing gear with its full weight and strength. Metal screamed. The craft tilted sideways, its stabilizers failing. David Ross, still on his feet despite his injuries, saw what was happening. The colonists had been watching in shock, but now he rallied them. "The creature is buying us time. Grab whatever weapons you have, now." The colonists surged forward. Hunting rifles cracked. Improvised weapons swung. They weren't warriors, but they were desperate parents fighting for their children, and now they had an unexpected ally. Rebecca Brennan, bleeding from her head wound, stumbled outside. She saw Lily hiding behind the storage container and ran to her. "Baby, are you hurt?" "Thumper's hurt, Mom. They're shooting him." Rebecca looked at the massive creature wreaking havoc among the Krell forces. This was the dire hare Lily had been visiting, the dangerous predator every colonist feared, and it was protecting her daughter like she was its own offspring. "We have to help him," Lily said. "Sweetie, I don't think there's anything we can do." But Lily was already running toward Thumper. Rebecca tried to grab her, but missed. "Lily, no." The little girl ducked under Krell fire and reached the dire hare's side. Thumper had taken up position near the damaged landing craft, using it as cover. The creature was breathing hard now, and its movements were slower. Multiple energy burns covered its body. Lily pressed her small hand against Thumper's side. "I'm here, you saved me." The dire hair made a soft, rumbling sound, even as it tracked incoming Krell warriors. Vask decided he had had enough. This extraction had gone completely wrong. One animal should not have been able to cause this much damage. His forces were in disarray, the humans were fighting back, and that creature showed no signs of stopping despite its injuries. "All units withdraw to ships 2 and 3, he commanded. "Prepare to fire on the settlement from orbit. If we can't take the juveniles, we destroy everything." His remaining warriors broke contact and ran for the functional landing craft. The humans, seeing the retreat, pressed their advantage. Several Krell fell to hunting rifle fire. Others made it to the ships but were clearly shaken. Torx reached the command ship and turned to see the dire hair still standing guard over the human child. "Commander, that creature will die in the orbital strike along with the rest." "Good," Vask growled. "Nothing on this primitive world should have been able to challenge us. I want it erased." The landing craft lifted off, rising quickly above the settlement. Weapon ports opened along their hulls. Targeting computers locked onto the research station and the surrounding area, exactly where Thumper and Lily were standing. David saw the ships positioning themselves. He had seen orbital strikes before during the corporate wars on Earth. He knew what was coming. "Everyone into the shelters," he screamed. "They're going to bombard us from above." The colonists ran for the underground bunkers that had been built when New Haven was first established. Rebecca grabbed Lily's arm, trying to pull her away from Thumper. "We have to go now." "Not without Thumper." The dire hair looked down at Lily. Then, moving carefully despite its wounds, it curled its massive body around the little girl. Its thick hide, evolved to withstand the claws and teeth of other apex predators, formed a living shield. Rebecca understood. She couldn't make Lily leave the creature, and maybe, just maybe, Thumper's natural armor would be enough. She pressed herself against her daughter, and the dire hair tucked both of them under its body. Above them, the Krell ships fired. The energy bolt hit the ground 20 meters from where Thumper crouched over Lily and Rebecca. The impact threw dirt and debris into the air. Heat washed over them, but the dire hair's body blocked most of it. Then something unexpected happened. High above the planet, an automated defense satellite detected hostile fire against the colony. The satellite was old, leftover from the initial survey mission, and most colonists had forgotten it existed. But its programming was simple: protect human settlements from orbital attack. The satellite's targeting computer locked onto the nearest Krell ship and fired. The beam caught Vask's command ship along its port side. Shields flared and failed. The hull breach wasn't catastrophic, but it was enough to trigger every alarm on the bridge. "We're hit," Torx shouted. "Shields down to 30%. Vask stared at his displays in disbelief. "There are no orbital defenses listed for this colony." "Apparently the database was wrong, Commander." Another bolt from the satellite streaked past Ship 2, missing by meters. The Krell ships immediately began evasive maneuvers. They were raiders, not military vessels. Their shields couldn't take sustained fire from a dedicated defense platform. On the ground, David Ross saw the Krell ship scatter and realized what had happened. The old satellite. It actually still worked. He started laughing, even though his ribs hurt and blood was running down his face. "Keep firing," he shouted at the sky as if the satellite could hear him drive them off. Thumper slowly uncurled from around Lily and Rebecca. The dire hair was hurt badly. Burns covered half its body, and one of its hind legs wasn't working properly. But the creature still stood, still watched the sky for threats. Lily looked up at her protector. "You're really hurt." The dire hair's ears swiveled toward her voice. It made a soft sound, almost questioning. "We need to help him," Lily told her mother. "Please, Mom, he saved us." Rebecca looked at the massive predator. Every instinct told her to get Lily away from it. But the creature had just used its own body as a shield for them. It had fought off armed aliens to protect her daughter. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, we'll try." But before they could do anything, the forest erupted. More dire hares emerged from the tree line. 5, then 10, then 20. They bounded into the settlement, their huge bodies shaking the ground. The colonists who had started to emerge from the shelters immediately retreated back inside. David raised his rifle, then hesitated. The dire hares weren't attacking. They were moving toward Thumper, surrounding the wounded creature in a protective circle. One of them, slightly larger than Thumper and with gray fur around its muzzle, approached carefully. It sniffed at Thumper's wounds, then made a low rumbling sound. The other dire hares took up positions around the perimeter, facing outward, watching for threats. "They're protecting him," Rebecca whispered. "They came to help." Lily stood up, still holding onto Thumper's fur. The dire hares turned their massive heads toward her, but none of them moved aggressively. They seemed to recognize her scent on Thumper, to understand she was part of whatever pack bond the injured creature had formed. Above them, the Krell ships were pulling back, trying to get out of the satellite's range while still maintaining orbit. Vask's face appeared on the remaining landing craft's external speakers. "Humans of New Haven," his voice boomed across the settlement. "You have made a grave mistake. The Krell Syndicate does not forget. We will return with more ships, more warriors, and next time we will reduce your entire colony to ash." "Good luck with that," David shouted back, though he knew Vask probably couldn't hear him. The Krell ships began their ascent, leaving atmosphere. The satellite tracked them but didn't fire again. Its ammunition was limited, and the ships were retreating. As the alien vessels disappeared into the sky, the dire hares remained. They formed a loose perimeter around the settlement, their intelligent eyes scanning for any remaining threats. The colonists slowly emerged from shelter, staring at the impossible scene. 20 apex predators, sitting peacefully around their settlement, not attacking, just watching. David approached the circle carefully, his rifle lowered. "This is insane. Dire hares don't act like this." "Maybe we don't know them as well as we thought," Rebecca said. She was kneeling beside Thumper now, examining the creature's burns. "These wounds need treatment. Do we have any medical supplies that would work on something this size?" Mr. Peterson stepped forward. "The veterinary kit from the livestock program, it's designed for large animals, might work." He ran to get it while Rebecca continued her examination. Thumper lay still, letting the human touch its injuries. The other dire hares watched but didn't interfere. Lily stayed close to Thumper's head, stroking the fur between its ears. "You're going to be okay. My mom's really smart. She'll help you." The old dire hare with gray fur made another rumbling sound. Several of the younger ones responded. It almost seemed like they were communicating. "What are they saying to each other?" David wondered aloud. "I don't know," Rebecca said, "but I think we need to start studying these creatures more carefully. They're not mindless predators. Look at how they're organized, how they responded to Thumper's distress. They have social structures, maybe even language of some kind." Mr. Peterson returned with the veterinary kit. Rebecca opened it and found burn gel, antibiotics, and synthetic skin patches. She started treating Thumper's worst wounds while Lily held the dire hare's massive paw. The other colonists gathered around, watching in amazement. Children who had been hiding in the shelters peeked out, their eyes wide at the sight of so many dire hares sitting calmly in their settlement. "They saved us," someone said. "Those creatures actually saved us." "One of them saved us," David corrected, "because a 6-year-old girl was kind to it." He looked at Lily, who was humming softly to Thumper while her mother worked. The little girl who had been too young to understand why dire hares were dangerous, who had seen a creature in the forest, and offered it berries instead of fear. "The Krell called us weak," David continued. "They said humans have no natural weapons, no claws, no armor, no venom. They're right about that, but they missed what makes us strong." "What's that?" Mr. Peterson asked. David gestured at Lily and Thumper. "We make friends, even with creatures that could kill us, especially with creatures that could kill us. We see something dangerous and our first instinct isn't always to destroy it. Sometimes we try to understand it, befriend it. Rebecca finished applying the last bandage to Thumper's injuries. The dire hare's breathing had evened out, and some of the tension had left its massive body. "Will he be okay?" Lily asked. "I think so. These burns are serious, but dire hares are tough. He'll need rest and more treatment, but he should recover." The old gray dire hare approached Rebecca slowly. It lowered its head, bringing its eyes level with hers. Rebecca froze, very aware that the creature could bite her in half without effort. But the dire hare just looked at her. Then it glanced at Thumper's bandaged wounds and back to Rebecca. The message was clear: "Thank you." "You're welcome," Rebecca whispered. 3 days passed. The dire hares didn't leave. They established a perimeter around New Haven that no predator dared cross. At night, the colonists could hear them moving through the darkness, their massive forms patrolling the settlement boundaries. During the day, most of them rested in the forest, but several always remained visible, watching. Thumper recovered slowly under Rebecca's care. The dire hare had taken up residence in a cleared area near the research station where Lily visited constantly. The other children, seeing that Thumper was safe, started approaching carefully. Soon, half the colony's kids were bringing the injured creature food and water. David Ross spent those 3 days preparing for the Krell's return. He knew Vask hadn't been bluffing. The raiders would come back, probably with reinforcements. "We need a real defense plan," he told the colony council on the 3rd evening. "That satellite bought us time, but it's nearly out of ammunition. When the Krell come back, we won't survive another assault." "What can we do?" Mr. Peterson asked. "We're farmers and scientists, not soldiers." "We adapt, we use every advantage we have." David pulled up a map of the settlement. "The dire hares are staying close. I think we need to accept that they're not going away." Rebecca nodded. "I've been observing their behavior. They're definitely protecting the settlement, or more specifically, protecting Lily and anyone associated with her. We've become part of their pack somehow." "Can we use that?" someone asked. "Maybe, but I don't think we should look at them as weapons. They're intelligent beings who chose to help us. We need to respect that." "Agreed," David said. "But we can coordinate with them, watch their patterns, understand their territories. If the Krell come back, we don't fight them. We let the dire hares handle the ground assault while we focus on the ships." He pointed to several locations on the map. "We set up our limited defenses here, here, and here. Protect our families first. The dire hares will do what they do naturally, defend their territory." The council agreed to the plan. Over the next week, the colonists fortified their positions while carefully avoiding interfering with the dire hares' movements. A strange partnership formed. The humans stayed in their areas, the dire hares patrolled theirs, and somehow it worked. Lily spent every free moment with Thumper. As the dire hare healed, it started moving around more, always with Lily nearby. The other colonists got used to seeing a 6-year-old girl riding on the back of an apex predator like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You know this is completely insane, right?" David said to Rebecca one afternoon, watching Lily and Thumper play near the stream. "Completely," Rebecca agreed. "But she's happier than she's been since her father died, and that creature would die before letting anything hurt her." "I've been thinking about what you said, about their intelligence. I pulled some old survey data on dire hares. Did you know they have a complex social structure? Territories passed down through family groups. Sophisticated hunting strategies. They even seem to have different vocalizations for different situations." "Like language?" "Maybe, not like ours, but communication definitely. The survey team just didn't spend enough time studying them because everyone was too afraid." Rebecca watched Thumper carefully lower its massive head so Lily could climb onto its back. "We were so busy being scared of them that we never tried to understand them." That's humanity in general, isn't it? Fear first, questions later. Not Lily, though. She saw Thumper and just offered berries. 2 weeks after the first attack, the Krell returned. This time, Vask brought 6 ships instead of 3, and he brought heavier weapons. The settlement alarms blared. Colonists ran for their assigned positions. Children were rushed to the reinforced shelters. David grabbed his rifle and headed for the command post they had set up. 6 ships, his deputy reported, picking up at least 40 Krell signatures. They're serious this time. So are we. David activated the emergency broadcast. All units, defensive positions, do not engage until they land. Let them come to us. In the forest, the dire hares heard the alarms. The old gray one, who the colonists had started calling Elder, raised its head and made a deep, resonating call. Every dire hare in the territory heard it. They came. Not just the 20 who had stayed near the settlement. More, many more. They emerged from the forest like a furry tsunami. 50, 70, 100, all converging on New Haven. "Oh my God," David whispered, watching them assemble. They called reinforcements. The Krell ships landed in a wide formation, trying to surround the settlement. Vask had learned from his first attempt. This time, he deployed heavy weapons teams first, establishing a perimeter before sending troops in. "Commander," Torque said, studying his scanner, "I'm picking up multiple large life forms, very large." "More of those hare creatures?" "Yes, sir, many more." Vask's mandibles clicked in irritation. "They're animals. We have enough firepower to kill every creature on this planet if needed. Deploy all units. No survivors this time, human or otherwise." The Krell warriors advanced on the settlement in organized formations. They were ready for resistance from both colonists and wildlife. What they weren't ready for was what happened next. The dire hares attacked from 3 directions simultaneously. They didn't charge blindly like beasts. They moved in coordinated groups, using the terrain for cover. They flanked Krell positions, cut off retreat routes, drove wedges between squads. It was military tactics executed by creatures who shouldn't have understood military tactics. The Krell heavy weapons teams tried to set up, but dire hares crashed into them before they could establish firing positions. Energy cannons went flying. Warriors scattered. Vask watched his organized assault dissolve into chaos within minutes. "What are these creatures?" "Commander, they're hunting in packs, coordinated attacks. They're using strategy." On the ground, Thumper led a group of younger dire hares against the eastern flank. The creature had healed enough to fight, and it remembered every Krell who had hurt it. More importantly, it remembered them threatening Lily. The dire hares hit the Krell lines like a natural disaster with a brain. They weren't just strong and fast. They were smart. They learned which attacks worked and which didn't. They adapted to Krell weapons and tactics in real time. David and his colonists watched from their defensive positions, barely needing to fire a shot. The dire hares were handling everything. "This is unbelievable," Mr. Peterson said. "They're winning." "They're not just winning," Rebecca said, watching through binoculars. "They're systematically dismantling a professional military force. Look at how they move. That's not instinct. That's intelligence." Vask saw his forces breaking. 20 warriors down, 30. The humans hadn't even needed to fight. These creatures were doing it for them. "All units fall back to the ships," he ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment." But this time, the dire hares anticipated the retreat. Elder led a group that cut off access to 3 of the landing craft. Other dire hares harried the Krell warriors as they tried to withdraw, preventing them from forming defensive positions. The old satellite, its ammunition finally exhausted, couldn't help, but it didn't need to. The dire hares had already won. Vask's ship limped away from Verdant 7 with half his forces dead or missing. The remaining Krell warriors sat in shocked silence. They had been defeated by animals, not human weapons, not advanced technology. Animals. "Update the galactic database," Vask ordered Torx quietly. "Flag all human colonies as extreme risk targets." "Commanders." "The humans didn't defeat us, but they didn't need to. They made friends with creatures that did." Vask looked at the retreating planet on his view screen. I've raided 100 worlds, fought species with natural weapons, armor, venom, but I've never seen anything like this. The humans befriended apex predators. They turned deadly wildlife into allies. Should we report this to the Syndicate? Yes, and recommend full military assault if anyone wants to try again. But honestly, Vask's mandibles clicked softly. I don't think it's worth it. Any species that can turn a death world's predators into guardians is more dangerous than they look. Back on Verdant 7, the colonists emerged from their shelters to find dire hares sitting calmly around the settlement. The creatures had taken minimal casualties. A few were injured, but most were simply resting after the battle. Elder approached David Ross, who stood with his rifle lowered. The massive dire hare looked down at the human, then deliberately turned and walked back to the forest. The message was clear: we're done here. Most of the dire hares followed Elder back into the trees, but about 20 remained, including Thumper. They took up positions around the settlement perimeter, settling in like they planned to stay. Lily ran to Thumper, throwing her arms around the creature's massive leg. You did it! You saved everyone again. Thumper lowered its head, nuzzling the little girl gently. The dire hare's wounds from the first battle had mostly healed, though scars marked its fur. New burns from today's fight would add to the collection. Rebecca joined them, running her hands over Thumper's latest injuries. You're going to need more treatment, big guy. The dire hare made a soft, rumbling sound that almost seemed like agreement. Over the following weeks, New Haven changed. The colonists stopped seeing dire hares as mindless predators and started treating them as neighbors. Neighbors with very sharp claws and territorial instincts, but neighbors nonetheless. David organized regular meetings with the colony council to discuss the new situation. We need to establish protocols. The dire hares are staying, at least some of them. We need to figure out how to coexist. They're protecting us, Mr. Peterson said. That's obvious now, but why? Rebecca had been studying the creatures extensively. I think it started with Lily and Thumper. She offered friendship to one dire hare, and that opened a door. When Thumper called for help, its pack responded. And when the whole pack saw humans treating their injured member with kindness, they expanded their protective instinct to include the entire settlement. So we're part of their pack now. Maybe, or maybe they see us as smaller, weaker pack members who need protection. Either way, they've chosen to stay close. 3 months later, word of New Haven reached other human colonies. Stories spread about the settlement protected by massive alien creatures. Some people didn't believe it. Others started asking questions about their own local wildlife. A galactic news service picked up the story. The broadcast reached dozens of species across multiple sectors. Humanity, the young spacefaring species everyone had dismissed as primitive, had done something no one else had managed. They had befriended a death world's apex predators. The Krell Syndicate updated their target lists. Human colonies moved from easy pickings to extreme caution recommended. Other raider groups saw the update and made similar changes. It wasn't worth the risk. Meanwhile, on Verdant 7, Lily Brennan turned 7 years old. The colony threw her a birthday party in the main square. Thumper sat outside, watching through the window. Rebecca had baked a cake, and all the children sang the birthday song. When the party ended, Lily brought a piece of cake outside for Thumper. The dire hare sniffed it cautiously, then ate it in one bite. Lily laughed. Was it good? Thumper made a rumbling sound that she had learned meant yes. Next year we'll make your own cake, a really big one. The dire hare lowered its head so Lily could hug it properly. Other dire hares dozed in the evening sun, their massive forms scattered around the settlement like furry guard towers. David Ross walked past, returning from a patrol. He paused to watch Lily and Thumper. You know what I realized? He said to Rebecca, who had joined him. We came to this world thinking we were colonizing it, but really we were asking permission to stay. And the dire hares granted it. Because a little girl offered one of them berries. David shook his head in wonder. The galaxy sees humanity as weak. No claws, no natural armor, no real defenses, but they don't understand that our strength isn't in our bodies. It's in our ability to connect, Rebecca finished, to see potential friends instead of just threats. The Krell targeted what they thought was our weakest member, a child. They had no idea that child had made friends with the strongest guardian on the planet. 6 months after the attacks, a proper Earth military vessel arrived at Verdant 7 in response to the distress signals. They came prepared for a rescue operation, expecting to find a devastated colony. Instead, they found New Haven thriving, and they found humans living peacefully alongside creatures that made their threat assessment computers malfunction. The captain of the military vessel, a stern woman named Admiral Rodriguez, walked through the settlement with David. She kept glancing at the dire hairs nervously. "This is unprecedented," she said. "These creatures are classified as extremely dangerous." "They are dangerous," David agreed, "just not to us." "How did you manage this?" David pointed to Lily, who was playing with a group of children near Thumper. "She offered friendship when everyone else offered fear. Turns out, that makes all the difference." Admiral Rodriguez watched the scene in silence. Then she pulled out her communication device. "I need to update my report to Earth Command. This changes everything we thought we knew about frontier colony defense." "How so?" "If humans can befriend apex predators on other worlds, we don't need to bring massive military forces to every colony. We just need to learn to coexist with local wildlife, to make allies instead of enemies. That's assuming the wildlife is intelligent enough to understand friendship. After seeing this, I think we've been underestimating wildlife intelligence across the board." The Admiral left a week later with a complete report on the dire hairs and their relationship with New Haven. Her findings spread through human space, changing how new colonies approached alien ecosystems. On Verdant 7, life continued. The dire hairs remained, generation after generation. They became part of New Haven's identity. Children grew up playing with creatures that could have killed them but chose protection instead. And at the center of it all was Lily and Thumper, the girl who had seen a monster and offered berries, the creature who had been shown kindness and returned it 100-fold. Years later, when Lily was grown and helping her mother with expanded ecological research, she still visited Thumper every day. The dire hair was old now, its fur more gray than brown, but its eyes were still sharp, still intelligent. "Remember when we first met?" Lily asked, sitting beside her oldest friend. "I was so small you could have eaten me in one bite." Thumper made a soft, rumbling sound. After all these years, Lily understood the creature's vocalizations better than anyone. "You're right, you never would have. You knew from the start that we were supposed to be friends." The dire hair rested its massive head on the ground beside her. Lily stroked the scarred fur between its ears, tracing the marks from battles fought to protect her and her people. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." In the distance, younger dire hairs played with human children. Two species, so different.